Episode for Miss Anson will be a copper so copper sabe or the name TV. They are the message of the subscriber like it over commenting your comment section. Sisiano, the case is getting very, very interesting. This time around, some can say interesting. I believe me and trust me. This case is getting out of hand and it's getting very interesting. Sisiano, I the Chief Justice, her ladyship, Justice Asari Buchi, Afre, Justice Yonny Kulendi. Yeah, wafreno because the secret order na Bontino. Yena who say Justice Yonny Kulendi Efre the Attorney General Eji Odame and of Ebani Fee no Safro no one cousin Richard Japa and so Ebaho. So what is BBC? What are you like? What dream crab the natural? Ebakacho said the Justice Yonny Kulendi was trying to, amend things between them. Nanka case, I foolish case, right? Yeah, son will be a big dream. And Tisiano, I poor Adom Octhere, no, a journalist, but no dealing with legal issues. I will come as and we deal with the law and everything. And so no, you're very, very learned. When you say assemble courts, or understand the BBI alcohol because we study the law. I friend a lawyer Paul Adom Octhere. And this is an audience movie about Bonte. Ghana for yen doing yanko. So I don't want to coach say what upon say I evidence informations about Bonte. These are the reasons, the particular reasons in the Justice Yonny Kulendi, every year the Attorney General Eji Odame, and also for no one cousin, by a year and the fee. It is a no for coming home, a year her ladyship, a Chief Justice Asari Buchi, Afre, a Justice Yonny Kulendi, Ebisana Sam, questions be the reasons in about the fee. What was she trying to do? And when to me maintaining a due diligence, Sisiano, a fan sembri aba or no any leadership and a forming person myself, and remember, a Justice Yonny Kulendi, or no a justice for the Supreme Court, the apex court in Ghana, and Sisiano come on, you could see some of the air cost so in my Ghana, but before that, no, must also subscribe to your ordinary TV. But like, you'll comment it. Your comment section, you start by clicking on the notification button for more news updates. And share one. You can take my sister with us.
And you may, when ye in Sambia PF with Justice if you are between ruling and audit to jar, Obia any encoso, now Obia so enca Hansel. Nina ever Justice Yonny Kulendi, our no Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Kwaya far so free, Godfrey the what damn ebani fee. Now sounds of from one cousin, Richard Japa. Now one year due diligence, I coffee fans all this burhaha by the NDC, say Tony General and a person or dada Richard Japa man can be Emma to force him a quatrino. And Paul Adom Octhere at Dosukoye, Justice if you are between ruling on the bed to jar. It has made clear the impact of Adia Justice Yonny Kulendi by inviting Attorney General to his office. Now, Attorney General looks up to Justice Yonny Kulendi as a father figure, as a mentor, a nunti, and a man copy movie. But if you know copy and no, and how fast I say winner, and the aquacoba. Now, young court Nimcotier and someone Paul Adom Octhere concerning this whole Yonny Kulendi Burhaha in the ongoing ambulance saga.
Statements made that you and you've been meeting me at my cousin's place at minute 10:45, etc. When studied closely, together with Jakpe's alleged attack of conscience, did not proceed from the mouth of the Attorney General. So the judge is saying that Attorney General said, I'm not helping you. I don't need to help you make my case. These things that Jakpe said, including saying that I've been meeting you at my cousin's house, that's Justice Kulendi's house. Justice Kulendi and Mr. Jakpe are cousins, and that's where they met several times before the phone conversation. So he made the point. It was Jakpe who told us in the tape that it's Justice Kulendi's house that they were meeting, and the judge refers to that. He says at my cousin's place, and he says that all of those things that they allege, it didn't come from the Attorney General. All of what came from him was that I am not asking you to help me make my case. Okay, all right. what might cause some discomfort, she says, is the fact of having the discussion in the first place. That is an interesting point that the judge raised. We are going to deal with it. He says, what might cause discomfort is the fact of having the conversation in the first place. Now, who do we lay this matter on? As far as I'm concerned, if there's a blame, or if we have to attribute the circumventing actual damage from the good relationship that Kulendi has with Yonny Kulendi, is what the judge is referring to. The judge says that what might cause some discomfort is the fact of having the discussion in the first place. And that is kind of true. But the discussion was had in the first place because two men, one looking up to each other, to the other as a mentor. The Attorney General looks up to Justice Kulendi as a mentor. As a result of that, and as a result of Justice Kulendi's family interest in Richard Jakpa, because it's his cousin, the Attorney General succumbed to meeting Richard Jakpa and creating a familiarity with him. It is on that basis. Without the Attorney General, the Justice of the Supreme Court coming in, Justice Kulendi coming in, Attorney General will never speak to Richard Jakpa. In fact, if we publish the text again, the one that the NDC obscured, they didn't show it. It was Richard Jakpa who sent the Attorney General text and said that, my name is Jakpa. I am the one that you have helped to secure bail. I am a cousin to the judge, and that I would like to see you. And the Attorney General says that, yes, I will contact you through. In fact, he even refused to confirm the meeting on the text. He said, hold on, I will contact you through your brother. So the judge has a right to raise this matter. And we have a responsibility to explain to our viewers why this causes discomfort for the judge. It will cause discomfort, but the discomfort has been occasioned as a result of a trust relationship. I don't know whether we should all be careful about the relationship that we trust going forward. I don't know whether many lawyers are going to be concerned about the relationship of trust, because in the legal fraternity and in terms of prosecuting and law, lawyers have relationships, and that's why you see two lawyers argue in a case, and for laymen, they think that they hate each other. But will be explaining some of these things to us in a minute. They go out in the court and they say, Charlie, but you, why do you talk like that? It's by you to he said, listen, we want to settle. So my client wants to settle. So, and you see the lawyers talking under a tree, and the clients look at them and say, hey, lawyer for any bonio, that's why they will go to hell. Understand it. That is why a counsel can walk to a judge and say, my lord, I need you to adjourn this thing. I'm not feeling too well today. The guy will say, oh, you think so? Call the other lawyer. The other lawyer comes. They were fighting 1 minute ago. He said, what is happening? He said, oh, Paul says he wants to adjourn. He's not well. So that's for him every day. He's not well. What's wrong with you? He says, oh, I don't, my head. He said, oh, your head is paining you. I have paracetamol in my car. You will see the opposite lawyer go and take paracetamol and give it to the other lawyer. And they were fighting 1 minute ago. That is not the reason why they will go to hell. That is how their work is. So because the Attorney General sees Justice Kulendi as his mentor, and so he goes to Justice Kulendi's house all the time. If Jakpa comes and Jakpa says, oh, I'm Justice Kulendi's brother. Say, oh, you're Kulendi's brother. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me see what I can do. Let's meet in Kulendi's house. So they meet there and says that, listen, Mr. Jakpa, you need to follow the theory of the case. The theory of the case is that the document that you have, Seabed, whatever his company is called, that document is not part of the document that went to Parliament. So that the deal that Parliament approved did not include your company. Somebody smuggled your company into it. And you will need to admit that before the court. And then he says, I cannot admit that. He says, well, if you cannot admit that, forget about it, because that's the fact of the matter. It's verifiable, it's provable, and all these things is happening in front of the Supreme Court judge. And that is why Kulendi opened up to him. So after meeting him several times in the Supreme Court judge's house, he places a call to Kulendi and he'll pick up and say, oh, that's Jakpa. He'll pick up and say, hey, Master, how are you? It's Attorney General, please, tomorrow is called to say, yeah, tomorrow. And then they start talking. So it is okay for the judge to raise this matter, but it is now an opportunity for to demonstrate. She also has relationships and she knows how these things build up. So that's the part. It says what might cause some discomfort is the fact of having the discussion in the first place on live matters before the court, and the fact of the Attorney General having asked Jakpa to seek medical excuse at the 14th to 15th minutes so as to be absent from court. Be that as it may, she says, the matters alluded to in the conversation and the fact of it, with the Attorney General being a lawyer, are matters which do not fall within the remit of the criminal proceedings and the duty of this court. Beautiful. So Kulendi and Richard Jakpa's lawyers now have the opportunity to appear before the General Legal Counsel And Godfrey Dami will say that I spoke to him. Yes, I did. Because I had met him on the platform of Justice Yonny Kulendi, whom you all know and whom you all respect. How many of you in this room in the General Legal Council will Justice Kulendi place a call and say that Jakpa is my cousin, can you come to my house? Let's understand his case. How many of you will decline that invitation? If I were Godfrey Dami, that's what I'll tell the General Legal Council. How many of you would decline that invitation? If the high and mighty Yonny Kulendi, Justice of the Supreme Court, calls you the prosecutor, you are already his mentee for many, many years. Not because he's Supreme Court judge and you are Attorney General. You are his mentee before he became Supreme Court judge. You are his mentee before you became Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General for that matter. And then now you're Attorney General, you're Deputy Attorney General, you become Deputy Attorney General. Now he calls you and says, Attorney General, please come and let's discuss this matter. Why would you decline such an invitation? So yes, the judge says that domain of the General Legal Council. It says it falls under the ambit of the Legal Profession Act, which makes the General Legal Council the body responsible, as the prosecutor has shown to have behaved in such an egregious manner that the Atuforson's right to a fair trial has been in jeopardy. She answers the question. The conversation before the court in Exhibit CAF2 took place in the last few weeks or months, long after the court had made a determination on the prima facie evidence that all the accused persons had a case to answer, and that Atuforson had even mounted a spirited defense and closed his case. Jakpa is yet to conclude his evidence because there were issues with filing of his witness statement and case management, as is borne out by record. In the circumstances, his lordship says, and having in mind the issues at stake in the trial, being ambulances that all parties acknowledge are of no use in the condition that they were delivered, the circumstances and the justification of which is the subject of the instant trial, and how far this case has traveled before the conversation that sparked these applications came to be, I should think not. She's answering the question, given the circumstances, her duty as a judge is to check whether this tape conversation, whether they are alleging the words used by the Attorney General or the conduct of it as a whole, whether this matter has put Atuforson's fair trial, the fairness of the trial, which is a constitutional obligation imposed by the court and indeed imposed on the Attorney General as well, that every Ghanaian should have the right to fair trial. That's a duty imposed by the Constitution, and it's imposed on the court and it's imposed on the Attorney General. The judge is evaluating the evidence of the tape and trying to ventilate it and asking herself that, can these circumstances put together, can they mean that Atuforson's rights to fair trial has been jeopardized? And she answers the question in the negative. And she gives a reason why. She says that by the time the conversation took place, Atuforson has told the court that he has no case to answer. The court has told him, you have a case to answer. He has finished answering the case. He has closed the evidence. He has closed it. So that's the end of Atuforson's case. What is left next is for Atuforson to be told whether he's guilty as charged. Sorry. What is left is for Atuforson to be told that he is guilty as charged. That's it. It will come again. At 10:25. Okay. So that's where we are. That's what the judge said. Atuforson, you are done. Nothing can change it. Whether the Attorney General somersaults in the phone conversation or jumps up and down or Jakpa throws the phone into the sea or he turns it to somebody to record a tape, all of those things, it wouldn't matter because you have actually closed your case. So there's no way in which your matter can be jeopardized. Every record is before the judge, and the judge is going to rule accordingly. So, viewers, this is the circumstances of the matter. This is the end of the story. So this is where we are. So the case has resumed. Today, the cross-examination of Jakpa continued by lawyers for the first accused. All of that is going on now. All three applications were dismissed. About the tape conversation, the judge had issues with the conversation happening at all, that matter. And I have explained that matter to you that. And she said that she's not the one to make that determination. Listening to it as a judge, she feels that, but why would the Attorney General have a conversation with somebody like that? Anyway, it's not my matter. The General Legal Council can deal with it. As for me, I'm dealing with the substance of the case. And the General Legal Council will deal with it. They are an arbitration sort of panel. And they are going to hear the real evidence. They are going to hear how many times Godfrey Dami met Jakpa in Justice Kulendi's house. What was the circumstances of the meeting? Who chaired the meeting? What conversations had at the meeting? Could these conversations have bred a certain familiarity between the Attorney General and Richard Jakpa? If it did, was it a familiarity that was free from manipulation of the case, etc., etc.? That's what they are going to look at. So maybe Godfrey Dame trusted too much and thought that Richard Jakpa was Justice Kulendi's brother, and therefore his mindset was like Justice Kulendi. That's how it works. When you know people and they tell you that this person is my person, you usually assume that they are like them. So I think that he wrongly assumed that Richard Jakpa, being Justice Kulendi's cousin, will carry the same conduct, the same discipline, the same dignity that Justice Kulendi carries. That was Godfrey Dame's problem. And tomorrow morning I'll tell him, I'm going to look for him to